Right. Well, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening for today's webinar on how to flip your felony into a six-figure trucking business with Nick DuBose, owner of the freight company. My name is Kimberly Johnson, and we just want to welcome everybody who could be with us today. So if you have the ability, would you mind just putting in the chat where you are located? We're here in Michigan. I'm from Ypsilanti, Michigan. Nick is from Detroit, Michigan. So no matter where you're from, if you don't mind just putting in the chat, just so we have a record and we can just say hi to all the people that are here today. And while you are doing that, I will just tell you a little bit about myself. Uh-oh. My name is Kimberly Johnson, and I am the owner of Prodigal Sons Academy. You can see a little bit about me on the screen here. I won't go through all of that, but before I started Prodigal Sons Academy, I worked at the University of Michigan. I worked there for about 30 years before I retired very early. I'm nowhere near 65 yet, but I felt like I wanted to go and venture on my own and pursue my own dreams instead of working somewhere 9 to 5 every day. So I started Prodigal Sons Academy just out of a passion for wanting to see young men not be held down by their past mistakes. So our company focuses on helping those who have a criminal background with getting back on their feet after incarceration. And how we like to do that is through financial literacy and entrepreneurial goals. And so this is a list of everything that we provide. And it's probably not even everything, actually. There's probably more that we do than what's listed here. But the things that I really want to focus on really quickly before I introduce our teacher is that, we're all about multiple streams of income and financial literacy. And how we like to do that is through entrepreneurship programs like what we're going to hear about today with how to start your own trucking company. We really want people after they come home to be able to bypass that application process of being rejected because of your mistakes, like I was saying. So we try to focus on giving you opportunities to make money for yourself. And so it's actually very biblical that you have your own company. So we try to stay in the way that we think that people should be doing things to be lucrative and to support your family and gain long-term generational wealth. And the only way to do that is sometimes with having your own business. So we focused on things like partnering with family members to do things like our family credit repair and credit building program, which we see this as an opportunity for even men while they're incarcerated. They can go through this program. So working with a partner like your mother, your aunt, your sister, your girlfriend, your wife, to be able to work with them while you're incarcerated or while your loved one's incarcerated. So by the time that they come out, they're like 50 steps ahead with a great credit score to be able to get their own car, to get their own apartment, and not have to rely on anyone to do that. So that's one of our really cool programs. Plus, we know in order to start a business, you're going to need good credit. So that's one thing that I will definitely promote before we get into today's webinar. Good credit. Good credit goes with running a good business. So we also offer some community-based services like one-on-one mentorship. We have a men's mastermind group. We have a women's support group. And then we also do some business branding and product promotion. So once you get your company together, we want to help you promote it and help you be really stable and have a really good successful run from the get-go. So with all that said, I would love to introduce our guest speaker today, our teacher. He's a friend of mine. We've only known each other for a little while, but I feel really good about our relationship. Nick's just wonderful to work with. So I consider him my partner, and he's just this wonderful person. And I describe him in 3 simple words. He is very disciplined, he's very driven, and he's very determined. And he will never disappoint. He's not disappointed me not once. He always comes through, and you'll see that in today's teaching with his webinar. So without further ado, let me pass this on to Nick DuBose, owner of the freight company. Nick, if you're ready, take it away.
Yeah. Can you guys hear me okay? Everything go
Sounds great. Sounds good on
good,
my
good.
end.
Thank you for such kind words. I appreciate it. And I reciprocate. I feel the same. So um yeah, man, I was looking at my little three lines of accolades, and yours is just so but we are here, right? Hey, so I am Nicholas DuBose, and I'm the owner of the freight company. Also, I advocate for we kind of share a space where I advocate for people with felonies um, through not only this channel but through the Project Clean Slate as well. You know, I sit on the board of directors for a nonprofit here locally too. That nonprofit is actually split. It's in the early childhood arena. They're also doing work in the mental health arena, and they're also doing work in the like job placement kind of arena too. So that's what I kind of keep myself busy with. And I don't want to spend too much time in myself and my history. I kind of want to get into it because we got a lot of ground to cover today. I made the statement online that I was going to be touching topics, and so I want to start this as soon as possible so we can get to these topics we was talking about. So we get the next slide, we can get started. All right, topic number one. Why trucking? Am I built for it? And I'm ready. What are my options? Right? Options 1 and 2. And so we go to the next slide. Why trucking? Well, here I just wanted to share why I got into trucking. Number one is because there was a quick turnaround in it. In as little as 8 weeks, you could like literally become a truck driver, depending on what school you go to. I want to say 6 to 10 weeks or 7, 10 weeks, whatever. But very quick turnaround. Second reason is that I realized in just looking at the truck driving jobs that you could very easily make 20, 25 bucks an hour. And you know, you can earn a little more if you got a little more experience and get endorsements and that kind of thing. But lastly, the one thing that was most important for me, because when I got in, I had felonies on my record, is that from the outside looking in, it didn't look like having a felony was the end of it. You know, it was like with certain industries, you just know you can't get in if you got a felony. And this one didn't look like that from the outside looking in. So it made me pursue it. Next slide. Yep. And so this is information that we pulled from Indeed. I'm sure everybody's familiar with Indeed. And so when you look at this slide, you can see that, and this is not, we didn't go like do an extensive search. This is just searching truck driving jobs like within 5 miles of Detroit. And this is the front page. We didn't go deep to find this. And you know, you're looking at, I mean, I know I said $20, $25 an hour, but most of the jobs even here, that's closer to $35 an hour, I want to say, somewhere in there. It's $1,500 a week. So yeah, you could just see that. That's you know, like that's exactly where you would want to be, especially as for something that it only took you 8 weeks to get into. You come out making $1,500 a week. All of those types of things are attractive when you're looking for a different career to get into. And then, you know, if you're watching any videos online about people that's doing truck driving, like owner operators and stuff like that, you see a lot of information there too as well about how much money you can make. Yeah. And so next slide. Right before that one. So the am I built for it kind of breaks down to this. It's pros and cons. It's understanding the pros and cons and how do they fit into what you're doing or what you're trying to do. what I would personally do is what I did is go to Google and just say pros and cons of truck driving and look at the posts that you get. And then you go to these different pages and you'll see lists of pros and cons. But this is a very short list. On the pro side, it's earning great money and traveling over the road. On the con side, it's long hours, being away from home. Sleep schedule is always kind of funky, especially if you're OTR, if you're over the road. And building a business, you know, that one is not necessarily a con, but it's one of those things that you really kind of gotta, when I say, am I built for it? If you're trying to be an owner operator, you got to be built for it. It's a lot of steps that go with that. And so that's kind of where that comes in at. And so next slide for me, please. And then one of the more important pieces that I thought anyway in this is doing a self-assessment, like really kind of looking into yourself to see exactly, like, am I really built for this? So you want to ask yourself questions like, hey, why do I want to become a truck driver? Is it purely just about the money? Or is it because I figure that this is something that I would like to do and I'm gonna gain some kind of enjoyment for it? Or you like driving anyway, you drive all day anyway, you feel a good joy when you're driving or whatnot. You know, look into yourself. How badly do I need employment? Because if you're, especially, and I thought about that just because for the person that's getting out of jail, right? I don't know if he has, she, whoever's getting out of jail, I don't know if they have 8-10 weeks to spare with going to school. You know, if they got to get out and hit the ground running, they might have to hit the ground running. So that's an important thing to think of. How driven am I to complete my goals? And I just mentioned, you know, like when you want to be an owner operator, you've got a lot of steps to complete. We're going to tap into those. We're going to touch those topics in this, so you'll see it. Aside from myself, who's depending on my success? And that's another good question, you know, because you'll find yourself with, like, you know, if sometimes it'll feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, if depending on who's dependent on your success. How long can I be away from my loved ones is good. A good self-assessment question, because the nature of truck driving, especially over the road, you're out typically 7 to 10 days straight. You may only be back 3 or 4 days, right? And so, like, are you built for that part of it? Like if you're going over the road. And this is a good one here. How would I handle not being able to immediately help my family in distress? And that's a good one because, you know, in that family dynamic, everybody has a role to play. Everybody is, you know, has something to do. And from, at least in my house, you know, I am the protector. I am the, you know, I'm the muscle, I'm the hired hand, right? So if there is a distress situation that requires that I'm there to protect my family, how do I handle that while I'm 500 miles away from the house? Again, using my wife as an example, because she has a CDL as well. But she, in our household, she is the reason why everything functions. She keeps everything in a working order. Believe me, when she leaves, this whole thing just crumbles down because dad is not really, you know, the kids is running around doing anything, eating anything. But it kind of goes the same way for her too. If she's gone, how does she handle the distress for things that she normally handle that I can handle, but just not as efficiently as her, and vice versa? You know, so it's a very important piece to think about when you're doing a self-assessment. Next slide. Yeah, you have a couple of different options as far as truck driving. Basically, only two. And the first option is becoming just a truck driver. The Second option is becoming an owner operator. Those are the two different ways that you can go. Next slide. Yeah, so option one, we're going to go through first because it's the quicker of the two. Option one is relatively easy in relation to what we're talking about. So if you just wanted to be a truck driver, the very first step is to obtain your commercial driver license, your CDL. We'll refer to it as CDL going forward. Some people say CDLs, but it's really just one license, so just say CDL. And that's a tip because in the trucking world, if you say CDLs, like people are looking at you like, what are you talking about? You know, that kind of thing. So you'll find out that it's not exactly a friendly industry when you're out there, you know, in the truck stops and that kind of thing. So you really got to know the lingo and learn that stuff. Let me see. Choose your school. Choose wisely here. There's a lot of different schools. Luckily, we're in an area where we have a lot of school options. We have them everywhere. East side, on the west side. You got one right here on Livernois. You got another one in Romulus, one in Taylor. You got one on the east side. You got in Sterling Heights. You got, as far as Port Huron, there is trucking schools everywhere. There's a whole wide array of options. You know, you just choose wisely, vet your school, you know, like kind of like pay attention to what you're doing. And if I can give you a good tip here is the more trucks that they actually have, the better, right? The more trucks that they have, the better. What are endorsements is next. Because after you obtain your CDL, you may need an endorsement. You don't have to, but you do good to get it. Endorsements are, it's kind of hard to explain these things, but so you go get your CDL, and then in order to do certain things, you have to go get another certification for it. That's the best way to say it. And so I'm thinking of anything that you can like kind of fashion it to, but you get your CDL, and then in order to drive doubles or triples, they don't do triples in Michigan. That's illegal in Michigan, but we do doubles. Like when you see a semi truck and it has a double trailer, right? And we call those doubles. And then if you go anywhere south of Michigan, you'll see triples, where it'll be 1, 2, 3 at the back of the power unit. And so if you want to drive doubles, then you have to go test for an endorsement. And the endorsement is just saying that, okay, this person is qualified to drive this. This commercial driver is also qualified to drive this type of commercial vehicle. And so you got doubles that you can do. You get, again, triples, but it's not legal in Michigan. What else? You have your tanker. Your tanker is going to be, let's say, like when you're the fuel truck. You see the fuel truck coming down the road, or the fuel truck at the gas station or whatever. Big old truck full of gas is refilling the gas. That's a tanker. Actually, that's a combination. That's a hazmat and tanker. So for the purpose of the endorsements, though, you have the tanker and a hazmat, but then you have a combination endorsement, which is X. It'll show X on your CDLs, and that's the tanker and hazmat combination. Then you have passenger. That's obvious, like, you know, most of your bus drivers will have that. Then you have school bus as well, passenger and school bus. So your bus drivers will have it. Your shuttle bus drivers will have a passenger. Any school bus driver will have a passenger and a school bus endorsement. I think that's it on the endorsements. But again, endorsements are, you have your CDL, just so it's understood, you have your CDL and these different types of vehicles that you can drive. If you get your CDL, you're pretty much good to drive the power unit plus dry van, power unit plus a trailer, like a flatbed trailer. Anything else outside of that, you know what I'm saying? Like your tankers or you know, anything that I mentioned earlier is going to require an endorsement. And so finding employment, there, we looked at the slide earlier, you can see that there's there's jobs out there that you can, and that's just at the front page of one of them. Like, I don't know if you do Monster or Get a Job or wherever you're looking for employment. Felony focus, there are some things that, some impediments to this if you have a felony, but it's a certain type of felony. We're going to cover a lot of this later, so I only want to do it the one time, so we're going to go past this one. But certain things, will hold you back from getting the CDL. Like if you had like a DUI, I believe the time frame for that is 2 years. I know a person that had 2 DUIs that has a CDL right now, but those DUIs were really, really old. He got a CDL, no problem. Just because I know some people think about that, having a DUI. So next slide, please. Let's see here. Touching topics, part 2. Option 1, truck driver. All right. Let's talk felonies in option 1. We just went over that one. Let me give you some game for option 1. Oh, you know what? Matter of fact, go back to the slide right before. Let me see. There was something that I wanted to find an employment, right? Now, I believe in real world test, right? I do it all the time, like in everything that I do. Like I kind of go out and test certain stuff and see what the application is in the real world. So I would encourage you to try to adopt that mindset, right? But let me give you some game on this, right? Finding employment. This is really, really simple to do too. It's just a little small real world test that you can do. You can go to some of those spots that I mentioned earlier, Monster, or wherever you go to fill out applications online, right? You type in your information, update your resume, do whatever is required, and fill out applications for CDL A and CDL B jobs, right? Just fill out I think if you update your resume, you can just like basically check off all of the jobs, and then it'll just blast your email to all of these different jobs. We'll do it for CDL A and B positions. And what I want you to see here is that even though you don't have your CDL yet, right, I want you to just sit back. If you do it on a Monday morning, I just want you to sit back and watch your phone. Because at some point in the week, your phone is going to start ringing for people that's offering you interviews, right? And that's a real world test, because what I'm suggesting that you do is kind of test the market before you even go get your CDL. Then you will see with your own eyes, like, whoa, wait a minute, my phone jumping. There's a lot of people calling me back. Now, when they call you back, you can say something simple like, oh, I'm sorry, I got hired on the spot for somebody. Please keep my resume online. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. Just let them down easily. Because really, you're just running the test. You don't have the CDL yet. But it's just so you can see the job, availability that's going to come after you get your CDL. That's a real world test that you can do. And it costs you nothing to do. I would encourage you to do things like that. Now we can go to the next one. I'm just giving you a little bit of game on how to move and figure these things out. Next slide, please. Yep. And so now we get to the owner operator side of it. Did I cover everything on that last slide? Let me see. I know I stopped at the final thoughts for option 1. Option 1 is a pretty easy option to go through. You don't have a lot of things that'll hold you back. I want to say this, we're going to have a whole section where we talk about how the felonies kind of play a part in this. But I do want to say that a lot of times with the felony part of it, you're at the whim of the company that you're applying for. There are certain companies that they're just not going to accept people with felonies, but then there's a ton of companies that will accept you. So I don't want you to feel discouraged at all for the, 3 or 4 companies that you might not be able to get into, right? Because there's literally, a whole lot of other companies that'll give you a legit shot, and they pay good too. It's not just because that's one thing about having a felony. I want to say this just because it hit my heart to say it, is sometimes we will have situations where we'll take a position just to kind of take that position, and we know it's probably crappy. You know what I'm saying? Like, but we'll take it just to take it just because you get rejected a lot. You get rejected so often it becomes discouraging. So when something comes along, you'll just take it. This isn't like that. It's not like you're gonna have the bottom of the barrel jobs just because you got a felony. I want that to be clear. I want that to be very well understood. You can still go out and get a job. You go get your CDL, you can still go out and get a job and make $1,500 a week. I think that excuse me if my numbers is off, but I think that winds up somewhere around 75 grand a year or something like that. I could be wrong. But I just want you to know, so my final thoughts in that is that, like, don't be discouraged because you have a felony, because you can still get in this thing and make really, really good money. And trust me, the trucking industry is booming. It's not going anywhere anytime soon. There's plenty of jobs available. Let me see if I got any questions from. I'm checking the chat now to see if there's any questions. Any questions from option 1 as a truck driver? All right. So yeah, we can go to the next. All right. Option 2. This is your option 2 as a owner operator. So owner operator is different in the sense that you are the company at that point. So you don't work for the company, you are the company, and your company is doing business with another company. So you're not just a driver, you're the owner of the company. So you got both roles, hence the name owner and operator. And so the first step is the same though. You would want to go get your CDL first. While it's not necessarily 100% required, I started in the game without a CDL. Matter of fact, I just got my CDL not too long ago. But excuse me, y'all. I would suggest going to get it, because if you're an owner operator, it'll stop your momentum when you're going to get it, right? It'll stop whatever momentum you have, unless you have a situation where you can stick a driver in and roll the truck, and then you can do that while you're going to school. So you wanna do the same thing though. You want to go get your CDL from the bell, from jump, before you do anything. CDL schools, they vary in prices. They go right now from about $3,500 to about $7,500. And again, you got to choose your schools wisely. Make sure they have enough trucks. I went to a school that had 3 trucks, and there was 1 truck on the road all the time. And then you had 2 trucks that was doing maneuvers on either side. And we had to kind of, it's 10, 15 people there. You don't get a lot of truck time. So it takes a lot more time to actually learn how to do the maneuvers. So choose your schools wisely. Secondly, you have to understand the task that's at hand, right? You're building a business, right? This isn't like you just going boom, 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 bap, slap, and then everything is everything, right? This isn't that. And so this is a situation that's totally different from that. You have several, and I do mean several different steps to complete. So You want to understand what the task is. You want to understand the assignment. That's what I really want to say, right? And while we're on the subject of understanding the task, we can talk about delegating tasks and why that's important. You'd be surprised how many things now I'll delegate to a different person or even a different company because it's just easier to do it that way, right? And time is money. We'll get to that part too. Time is money, man. This thing costs you. In my dynamic, you know, we talking six figures. We talking, you know, even if you're talking 100,000, we're talking about $2,000 a week, maybe 1,900 a week. So each week potentially costs you at least 1,950. That's that. So why would you ever fumble around with something that could possibly cost you more time? As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example of this, right? Here's a great example, right? So yeah, let me give you the game on this. So I did my own LLC, right? And the name of my company is the Freight Company. So when I was doing my LLC on IRS website or whatever, right? The IRS automatically omits the word "the" from all names. They don't care what it is, right? They automatically, so if you say the car company or whatever, they're going to take the off and it'll just be car company. So then when I did my articles of what do you call it? Articles of incorporation with the state, when you know you're just taking your LLC information and giving it to the state and saying, hey, I got a business. They recognize the word "the." So now on the state side, I have the Freight Company. On the IRS side, I have Freight Company. I take both of those documents to the bank. The bank person looks at it and looks at both documents and they say, oh, these documents don't match. They handed it back to me and said, you got to get those to match and then we can open you up a bank account. Meanwhile, I got a full-scale business already going. I need banking. And I couldn't figure it out. So I called the IRS and the IRS told me the information that I told y'all in the beginning. They took the word "the" off and they only give it to you if you absolutely need it. And I'm like, well, lady, look, I'm in the middle of, I got my business running already, right? And I can't get banking. It's holding me up. I need it. So they put the word "the" back onto my name on the IRS side. I'm hoping that y'all following me here. So now I got both names to match. But here's the thing. Time is money. It took another 8 weeks for them to send me that paper in the mail. 8 weeks. You see, so time is money. If I had delegated that task to the people that's professionals at doing it, they would have got it done and they would have caught that. They'd have told me right off bell, this thing's got to match. So even when you can go out and execute these things, sometimes it's just best to delegate the task to the professionals that do it, even if it costs you a couple bucks, because it'll save you 8 weeks. In my case right now, like I said, we're talking about two grand per week. And you can just 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, $16,000 that could be earned in that amount of time. 8 weeks is a long time when you're in trucking. So time is money. I hope y'all got that. I'm just giving y'all a little bit of game, man. So next slide.
Hey, Nick, before we go on, there was a question that I missed from Latricia in Michigan.
Yeah.
She wants to know, what about air brake endorsements? She wants to know if she really needs to have it.
Oh, okay. So an air brake endorsement is, yes, you do, but it's kind of one of those things where it's hard to not get it, because before you go to get your CDL, you have to get your permit, and you put that in as part of your permit. So when you do your permit, you're going to do air brakes, general knowledge, and then you're going to do what do you call it? The tractor trailer setup, the couplings. And so you do your air brakes as part of your permit. It is an endorsement, and it is an endorsement that you need, and you can only get it if you got a CDL. But that is correct. That is 100%. You do need it. Most every truck that you ever get in is going to have air brakes if you got anything that's over 26,000 pounds. Most all of that stuff, because the air brakes are just more efficient at stopping that amount of weight. So you rarely find trucks that carries like a good amount of weight that you can go make money with. You rarely find them with like pneumatic brakes or the fluid brakes like you would see in a car. All of these trucks that you need to make money, you get air brakes, and you get that at your permit level. Yeah. Hopefully that answered the question. So looking at this slide, you're looking at your company name. I did almost like a think tank for my company name, and I got a couple of people that I trust, a couple of creative people, you know what I'm saying, that just gave them a vision like, hey, this is where I want this to go. And we sat on a Zoom call and just hashed it out. You know, it took probably about a good 30 minutes. And it sounds like the freight company, it sounds like that's something that I could have just came up with, but believe you me, that is not what I can. I wind up with that name because it was available and it seemed simple, and I wanted it to be simple. So the freight company, it's like, how simple can it get? But I mean, we went through a lot of stuff: Blazing Freight, Blazing Logistics, Trailblazing Logistics. We just threw a whole bunch of stuff out there, and the freight company kind of stuck. And when it stuck, I was just like, yeah, it feels right. It's simple. It says what I am. It says what I do. You know, I handle freight. So you want to put some thought into your company name, and you want to think of it in terms of branding as well. You don't want something that's so complex that it's going to be hard to brand. You know, that kind of thing. And so filing your LLC, I put here that is between $150 and $499. That's definitely something that I would delegate to a different company, especially after what I experienced with it, right? Even though I got it, I kind of, I did all of the right steps, and it was still wrong, at the end of the day. So your EIN, you get that from the IRS. Your business portfolio address, you need a proxy address, phone number, website, email, bank account. That's all stuff that, should be obvious, but I just want to go over it and tap into it a little bit just so I can say I said it for sure. Branding, your logo, website, business cards. I put $200 to $500 if you hire a company. And that's that's about it for that one. We'll go to the next slide. All right, owner, operator, and your authority. Yeah, so you're talking vehicle and vehicle insurance. Now, I'll be honest with you, it took me 5, 6, possibly 7 months to secure a vehicle. And it's just because I just studied the game, man. I didn't rush out to do anything. I wasn't in a rush. The only time frame that I was working with was the time frame that I created for it. So I didn't have a urgency in it. My urgency was just the wanting me to get it right. The me wanting to just get the thing right. So I ended up buying my vehicle cash. I got a 26-foot straight truck. And so, the best advice that I can give you on it is just do the research. Do the research. And when I say do the research, I mean, like, I was up at nights looking at trucks, looking at stuff, looking at this, looking at that. I went and test drove trucks when I didn't have any money to put on them at all, to no degree. I looked at all of the options. I looked at Sprinter vans and trucks and cargo vans and box trucks and semi trucks. And yeah, I don't. If you're in the Detroit area, this auction that's right here on 96 and what's this, Telegraph. I think it might be called Detroit Auto Auction. I'm not sure, but they have a auction that they run to get rid of the city's vehicles, and a lot of times they'll have semi trucks up there. And I think the first semi truck that I had ever been in my whole life was up there. I didn't have a dime to buy it, but I just went and sat inside of it because I was just immersing myself. I was like submerging myself into it, you know, like, so everything that I was doing was saying, you know, it was giving energy to it. If you give the energy to it, you'll find what you're looking for. And I was doing all that kind of stuff. I sat in the truck and looked at all of the controls and played with. I was the whole kid. I was playing with the steering wheel and all of that stuff, and had no intention on taking part in the auction. I just, you know, again, you know, it was, for me, it was another one of those kind of real world tests. I wanted to just jump in and to see what it was like, see where the gear shift is and all of that stuff. But I was really giving a good positive energy to it. So by the time my truck came along, I knew it was the right truck because I had really submerged myself into uh, that idea of buying a truck and finding the right truck. I didn't rush into anything. Like, time just felt like it stood still for me to do all of that stuff. Because now that I look back on it, 6 to 7 months is a long time to be going through that, but it just seemed like time was standing still on it, and I wound up getting a good truck. As a matter of fact, I got a sleeper on my truck and landing gear. Certain those two things that you usually don't find on a box truck. Safety inspection. I want to move on for the sake of time. Safety inspection. You have to have a qualified mechanic, a diesel mechanic, and they have to have a CDL as well. You have to have a qualified person come out and inspect your truck. They're going to do the same inspection that a state police officer would do, right? If you pass it, they're going to write out this little form and stick it, affix it to the side of your truck. If you fail it, they're going to tell you why you failed it, and you're expected to make those adjustments, and then they'll come out and inspect it again. The safety inspection, I put 150. You have to search. I'll put 150, but you got to search high and low for that 150 because these diesel people, man, these diesel mechanics and these people that do the safety inspections, yeah, they're gonna tax you a little bit, right? I want to say you should be able to find, if you can find it for 150, you know, by all means do it. But you know, I want to say that, you know, look to spend around 250 on that, you know, 250 to 300, something like that. The Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, the good old FMCSA, they are going to be everything that the government has to do with the safety of your truck. That's really what the short of that title is, right? It's the government requirements for the safety of your truck. I'm gonna stand up for a little while. And so the FMCSA is who's going to house pretty much all of your records, your driving records, your drivers, how many trucks you have, everything. Like, everything is pretty much goes through the FMCSA. This is also the place that you go to get your motor carrier authority, your MC numbers, your DOT numbers. It's all housed in the same umbrella. The United States Department of Transportation, that's your DOT. When you see a truck and you see those little numbers on the side of the truck, that's what those are. It's an authority number and your Department of Transportation numbers. For your authority, really what that is just saying that you have the authority to go where you're going with whatever it is that you take, right? You gotta keep in mind that with a lot of, if you're talking interstate, right, then you're taking products across the state lines, and these different states got different rules. So when you cross into another person's state, it's like, who gives you the authority to come over here? And you say, oh, I got the authority to come over here, and then boom, you can go about your way. Now that doesn't happen, but I'm just trying to illustrate what that actually is. The Department of Transportation, same thing. It's a set of numbers on your truck. There's one that's not here, KYU numbers, and it's a registration thing, but I didn't put it here because it's specific to the state of Kentucky. And I also didn't put it here because it doesn't apply to every vehicle. These two right here applies to every vehicle, if you're interstate, right? If you plan on going out of town to any degree, you're going to need those things, right? So the KYU numbers too, they have a weight requirement on that. The Kentucky, the KYU numbers. And so I think the weight requirement might be 60,000 pounds for that. So I don't have it listed here, but it's there. The state police. So everything that we're talking about here, as far as the federal government, like the federal motor carrier, the U.S. Department of Transportation, the state police is who enforces these rules on the state level. So when you're when you're driving down the highway, it's not the FBI that pulls you over, right? It's the state police. You want to watch out for the you want to be wary of the Suburban, the big truck. You want to either one of them, but the Suburban is specifically commercial vehicle enforcement. But either one of the state police cars in any state that you are, either one of them can pull you over. The locals can pull you over too, like for just so you know that. A lot of people think that they can't, but they can. They don't, but they can. Safety audits. I just had my first safety audit actually. And basically what it is that they give you what it sounds like. It's a safety audit. So they call you and they'll check up on all of the safety things that you should have in place. They want to see your hours of service. They want to see your inspection is up to date. They want to see, it's just a whole list of stuff that they're going to go through. But once you start your business and you're legit and you got everything in place, you got all of the information that you need for a safety audit. There's nothing to be like afraid of. Safer is a snapshot. They call it the company snapshot. It's a system that the FMCSA has so that anybody, right, can just go look your company up just by those numbers on the side of your door. The Unified Carrier Registration, your UCR, is a system of registering your trucks. If you have, and it costs more the more trucks you have. So if you have, now I'm not particularly sure what they do with this money or how they allocate this money, but if you have 0 to 2 trucks and I think I put the price here. So if you have 1 or 2 trucks, then your UCR registration is going to cost you $166 per year. Can't tell you exactly what they do, but I know that 100% you need it. You can't not have it. Your form BOC3. You should be able to find a company that's going to do your BOC3 for around $50. And basically what it is a process server company. What they're going to do is they're going to, I have a note here. I just want to make sure that I didn't skip by it. Yeah. And so what they're going to do, when you think process serving, right? When you think process serving, like let's say someone is getting a divorce and they got to go serve the payment. Same process server as that, right? So when you're operating, you have to have a company that is willing to serve paperwork for you in every state that you operate. So like if something happens in, let's say you're in Arizona, right? And you get into a fender bender, or your driver gets into a fender bender, and everything is good, boom, 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 and you just change the insurance information. But then something happens with the insurance companies where something has to get delivered, like you got to send this paper over. It's your process serving company that's going to be available for you in Arizona to make sure that paperwork get to where it needs to be. And so that's kind of what your form BOC3 is. That's the kind of, I'm trying to break it down in a way that you can really, really understand it. Once you have a form BOC3, and I say form is because you're designating this company to speak for you, and they're going to serve your process. So that's the best way I can say that. Felony focus. I think my next slide is going through felony focus. So we'll just go over to that next slide. Oh, you know what? Go back one. please, for me. Thank you. Your motor carrier authority, right? There's two things that I want to tap into while we're here. There is certain things that will keep you from being able to get your authority. One of the major ones is if you have a, let's say someone got into an accident and it caused a fatality. Now, for this, it doesn't matter whether you had your CDL, a chauffeur's license, or a license, or no license, right? None of it matters. If you've ever been in an accident and it caused a fatality, you're never going to get a authority. That's that, right? That's one of the things that is like is not forgivable in their eyes. So, that's that. You can't move to the next slide, I think, because I might have that there. There's 4 main reasons why you could be denied a CDL in Michigan. Multiple driver licenses. You can only have one license in one state. A suspension if you've been suspended, revoked, denied, or your license been canceled within the last 36 months, 3 years, basically 12, 24, 36. Yeah, a conviction of a DUI. I think I said 2 years earlier, but a conviction of a DUI in the previous 2 years. And then lastly, I just said this too, you can be denied a CDL if you have a driving related felony. An example of a driving related felony will be if a driver's negligence caused a serious injury or loss of life, that driver would never be able to get a CDL or an authority as well. So as far as felonies go, there's not a lot holding you up there. And then, you know what? There's another one that I forgot to cover. When you're talking endorsements, you actually get that through the TSA. And so I'm talking not the endorsements, but specifically your hazmat endorsement comes through the TSA. You have to submit to a background check for that. Can you hit the next slide for me, please? And when they do a background check, these are the things that they're looking for here: manslaughter, negligent homicide, any other felony with a motor vehicle, operating under the influence of liquor or drugs, failing to stop or give identification at the scene of a crash, reckless driving, unlawfully body alcohol content, refusal to take a chemical test, fleeing or eluding a police officer. If you did any of those things within 24 months of the application, you will not get a hazmat for sure. Guaranteed. And so, as far as that though is concerned, there's not a lot holding you up as far as a felony from the owner. We talked about it from the truck driving perspective. Remember, I was talking about how you're at the whim of the company that's giving you a job. So let's say like a Walmart or whatever, they may have a process for felonies, that kind of thing, or they may not deal with it at all. But at the owner operator level, it's a little bit different because, there's nobody there to kind of run your record because of what I said in the beginning. And that's why this part is really, really special, is because it's a company doing business with a company, not a person, right? So people can't really vet. They can vet your company, but they're not going to vet your person. Like, that's just what that is. And that's why you see owner operators that have felonies, they still have Amazon accounts because Amazon is doing business with that company. They're not doing business with that person, right? That's kind of how that works. And so can I get the next slide, please? As far as felonies though, you just gotta really trust the process in it, man. Like, just understand it's kind of scary, especially if you're doing an owner operator, because you're spending a lot of money, and then you're talking about the rejection, and you're talking about this. So you kind of just got to trust that what I'm saying is right, in respect to that, because I'm here, right? I'm here right in front of you. I am the same person now. I had no cases myself. You see what I'm saying? So And I'm here, so it is going to be a little bit scary. You deal with rejection so much, you don't want to, clearly you don't want to put $2,500 down on your insurance and then figure out that you can't do this because you got a felony. So you just got to trust me on it. There's a lot of people, a lot of owner operators out here with felonies, I should say. Option 2, owner operator. All right, understanding your business. Now this right here, this is clutch. This is your everything, because this is after you done passed everything else, right? Everything else. This is easily the most important part. I think every part is the most important part, but this is a really, really, really serious part, is understanding your business, knowing what it costs you, and understanding the variables, right? So when you talk about, I got an analogy for this, but it's just not appropriate for this arena, so I'm not going to use it. But there was when you talk about understanding your business, right? This isn't something that you can just think like, nah, it don't work like that. It doesn't work like that. Like, I meet people all the time in this arena that struggle with this business, and I know somebody right now that'll tell you right now, like, man, my truck don't move for nothing less than this. And they kind of hang themselves right there, like, and that's all they have to offer in it. But, what is that actually saying? It's just saying that you need a certain amount of money for your truck to move, and that's from an area that really comes from an area of, obviously not wanting to lowball yourself to a degree or another, but that's from you approaching this situation like you think people are going to lowball you for stuff, and they will, right? But you're approaching it from that area. And I'm not, I don't know where I feel or how I feel about that area. You want to understand your business, because if you understand your business and you understand your numbers, then you ain't got to worry about nobody lowballing you ever, Jack. Like, I don't worry about that kind of thing, because all of my movements, as far as negotiating, is calculated. Like, I'm on it. Like, I know what my worth is. I'm not going to, like, I'm not running around like, oh man, I don't move my truck unless it's this. Like, every one of my loads is like that, right? I don't have like just this set number that I just don't have it. Like, I negotiate every single load. And it's because I understand what my company numbers are. I'm keenly aware of what gas costs me, what my fuel cost is. I'm keenly aware of my intangibles or what I need to have in petty cash. I'm keenly aware of what my tires cost me and what my maintenance cost me, and like all of this stuff I'm really in tune with. So you really got to know what this thing costs you in order for you to be successful, because you can't just eyeball this thing. That's what I wanted to say earlier. And I'm gonna go ahead and say it. It was a song, right? And it was called Hood Figure, right? I keep the perk by the pound. And there was a spot in this song that I'm leaning to. And he said I can eyeball perk. We're not gonna eyeball anything. We're gonna put it on the spreadsheet and see if it works. And if it works, then you do it. That's what business is. It's not just freestyling anything. Don't think you can just keep it up here. And I'm just giving you game. Like, this is how I got from where I was to where I am, is by understanding what I'm doing. Let's move to the next slide so I can tap into this a little more. This right here is an example of, let me pull up my chair right quick because it's a little bit small on my. So this right here is an example of, it looks like my Q3. I didn't do anything out of Q4 because I haven't closed my Q4 books for this year. But my Q3 is already closed, so this was safe to do. And this is just what looks like this is Q3, week 7, August 15th through 19th, right? So here I have the driver, I have the load coming from, and this is what I use to kind of view my company at a glance, week to week, no matter who's driving, no matter who's doing what. And so you can see where the load goes from, you can see where the load goes to, you can see the approximate amount of miles. Remember, this is just me, a snapshot. This isn't my fine detailed spreadsheet, right? We automate the deadhead to 60 miles because we don't, most of the time, we don't travel more than an hour to go pick up a load. And then we get a total miles from that. We get an approximate amount of time for that, but that approximate amount of time is only for the actual load hours, not the deadhead hours. And then, oh, I have the pay over here too, with those loads paid out. So where you see the rate type, if you see the letter for my spreadsheet, right? If you see the letter F, that means that that rate came from a formula, right? So when I look at that, I can see that all of these rates went against my formula and they all make money, period. It's not something that I'll try to figure out. That's just what my spreadsheet dictates to me. So if I see the, let's say the letter R, for instance, if I see a rate on this side, when I'm looking at my snapshot, right? If I see a rate on this side and it's a letter R right there, then I know that I'm probably talking to a new broker, or whoever booked the load was talking to a new broker, and the R is for relationship. They probably cut the price on the load just so we can build a relationship with that broker. But make no mistake, when we do stuff like that, I build relationships with integrity. Like, I'm not just gonna like cut myself all the way off just so I can get, you know, this relationship with this person. It doesn't work like that for me. I will give a little bit of a break, but not much, you know, that kind of thing. And when I see the letter R next to the rate type, that's what it lets me know. If I see the word E, or C, E and C, both of them mean about the same thing. E means even, like I broke even. Now, that's a number that I want to see sometimes, but not a lot, right? So, because the C stands for charity. So, in those areas, when I look at what that load paid, right, because even when I'm doing charity, it still goes on this board. But in those areas, if I see an E or a C, it means that I broke even or that I did something for charity. And what that looks like is, when I see that, that means everything and everybody got paid but me, right? A good example of that is like, let's use Thanksgiving. It just passed anyway, right? So let's say I'm contracted to take 300 turkeys from one side of town to the next. I may charge them for my fuel costs, my business costs, and everything else, but don't charge them for my driver or my fee for, you know, whatever I make off of it. So they'll get a significant discount in moving that stuff from here to there. And if I'm looking at the rates here and the rates is like in half, then, you know, and I see the C next to it, I know I did that for charity, you know, that kind of thing. So I still kind of bill it, but then, you know, that goes against my taxes, and that's a whole different story. So, but that's kind of what this is. And so what I'm trying to get across to you in this is that this is just one of my sheets. This is the one that I kind of use the most, though, because I'm able to look at this and see a picture of what's happening in my week. And if something is off, right, this sheet usually tells me almost immediately. And so that's what that is. Now, you know, I knew I was going to do this sheet. So what I did was I just added this 760 at the bottom. I'm not sure if you're following, but if you go to, I think this is column G, all the way at the bottom, you see where the miles is totaled up for the week, right? But because, again, I'm in tune with what I'm doing, when I looked at that, I said, oh, the people are going to see this. Let me tell them what the fuel cost me, because that's the biggest cost that you're going to pay while you're out there, right? And I know that y'all needed to put some number next to this number that you see over here. I did $3,400 this week, right? And so, but of that $3,400, $760 of it was fuel. That fuel equation is really, really simple. you know, I'm looking at the amount of miles, my total miles, including my deadhead, was 968. I divide that by 7, I get about 7 miles a gallon. And then I simply times that by the price of the gas, which is usually 550, 575-ish. And so that's roughly the fuel cost. I did that just for y'all to see, so y'all have a good idea of what the biggest cost, the biggest chunk of money that got to get spent is. And so, you know, I don't know if it's basic math. It should be. Let me see. It's 3,400, 3,000. Let's say 27, 2,600. So I might have cleared 2,600 after my fuel costs. And I'm sure, you know, if I really look through my bills, you know, it's probably another 200-300 that I got to pay for whatever reason, right? But I cleared 2,300 that week, and you know, that's a typical week. That's a typical week for me. And I don't know if y'all see this neither. I didn't run 40 hours at all. I probably ran closer to 30 hours in this week, including all of my deadhead mileage. So we can go to the next slide. Before we talk about negotiating your loads, because it's all kind of tied into each other as far as like understanding your company and how to negotiate a load. So I want to dedicate some time to that so y'all understand that, because this is really the biggest part of this thing, is understanding what you're doing and why you're doing it when you're talking about a trucking company and owning a trucking company. So it's probably now a good time to remind you that we really would appreciate any feedback that you could give us as far as this webinar. Your honest feedback is really, really needed. So whatever you could give us, any kind of feedback, you know, you reach out, email. I'm sure there's some kind of link you can hit on that. And so, yeah, you hit the link, you give us the feedback, whatever you can, whatever you think will make it, whatever you would want to see in it. We're going to use it. We're going to look at those things and make sure it's nothing that we missed. And I am looking at all of the topics we covered, man. We covered a lot. Golly. We talked about getting your CDL, becoming a truck driver, how it relates to your felonies. We talked about what else? What else did we cover? We covered owner operator. We did a self-assessment piece. We did you know, just understanding yourself and asking those real questions to yourself. How do you respond if you're 500 miles away and you got some kind of thing going on at home? We touched a lot of topics in this thing. Matter of fact, if let me look at the chat. Let me see here. If you getting something from this stuff, put a 1 in the chat for me, just so I can see, so I can get some action. Yeah. And so we touched a lot of topics in this, which is pretty dope. So I got a bonus for y'all too. I want to tell y'all about. So before we get to this next step, I want to tell y'all about my ebook and my course. I'm working on the ebook right now, working on the course right now. And I know I've been saying tapping in, you know, like touching topics. And with this webinar, I tried to touch every single topic that there is to trucking. I still got a little bit to go with the negotiation piece but I tried to touch every topic. So in my ebook, I'm gonna take those same topics and kind of open them up a little more. Like I'm gonna tap into them, right? And so the ebook is designed really to kind of give you some extra little nuggets to kind of help you out. You're gonna find out some great stuff in that ebook. Like we talked about earlier, like even with the question that I had earlier, as far as your endorsement, one of the things that I didn't mention earlier was when you get your CDL. I ended up saying it to answer this question, but when you get your CDL, before you go to school, when you go to school, they're going to send you out of that school and say, hey, we need you to go get your permit. So when you go to the Secretary of State, you're going to have to get one of them big old books and read the book and, you know, that kind of thing. And then go get your permit first. Once you get your permit, then you're going to take that back to the CDL school. And that's where your school is actually, your schooling is going to actually start. You got to do a mandatory 2 weeks of class time now too, with that. But the ebook is going to kind of cover that and kind of open those things up like I just did with that. It's going to open up a little bit, just a little bit. It'll tap into it a little more. But then I have the course. And so the course is really going to just really blow the doors off of it. It's going to be pretty much, we're going to take every area and just unpack it. We're going to bust it down. We're going to bust it all the way down, right? So the course is going to be available, and it's going to come with the ebook. At that point, you get the course, you're just going to have the ebook for the reference, just to have a small form of it. But the course is going to, like, you know, the courses, we're past touching the topics. We're past tapping into each one of them. We're going to really bust it down in the course, man. So it's going to be a lot of value in the course. A lot of the little tips and tricks that I have, it's going to be right there in that course. As a matter of fact, I'm going to do this right now for anybody that's paying attention to this thing right now. We really, really need your feedback. Like, your feedback is 100, because like when we're going to take your feedback and ensure that it, you know, that like we want to make sure that when we're putting this content out, we're putting this stuff out, that it hits everybody. And if we missed anything, we want to be able to hear it from you. For the first 2 people that gives feedback, the very first person is going to get a free copy of my How to Start a Six-Figure Trucking Business course. The second person is going to get a free copy of my ebook. You heard that first. You have it right now. So the $349 package, it comes with coaching. So not only do you get the ebook and the e-course, but I'm going to do weekly coaching calls as well. So you'll have access to me once a week. Yeah. And yeah, we're doing pre-sale right now. Everything that I just mentioned is half off. So that'll make the ebook only for $49. If you do the pre-sale, the pre-order on the ebook and the course is $124. And if you do the pre-order for the ebook, the course, and the coaching, it's $174. And so yeah, man, we're trying to get this thing to an area where, especially with the course, it's going to be where you're going to know exactly what to do, how to do it, when you need to delegate, who to delegate it to, you know, that kind of thing. We're going to have all of the resources. Or even at the truck driving level, we're going to have resources in there. So instead of you having to go to Indeed or Monster or anything like that, we're going to have a list of trucking companies that'll just hire you anyway. So even for the truck driver, you know, this is good info. And so, yeah. I'm excited to bring this to you. I put a lot of myself and Prodigal Sons Academy. We put a lot of energy into this thing. We're trying to get it right again. Give us your honest feedback. And that said, we'll just we'll get to the next part of this webinar. Is before you negotiate one load, you have to know your operating cost, right? This is something that I go over in the course, is understanding what each thing actually costs you, right? Knowing your vehicle limits and dimensions, that is a very, very important thing. Understanding like how wide you are at the door. You need to know that, because some of these things, just don't think just because all of these doors look the same, like in the back of a semi or in the back of a box truck, right? Don't think that those doors are the exact same. They might be off by 2 inches, and that 2 inches is going to make a whole difference in what you can put in there. So making sure that you have your tools and supplies. there's a certain group of things. Hang on a second. That's a lot of talking, man. So making sure you have your tools and supplies, right? There's a lot of things that you're going to need. Again, this is stuff that's in a course, but there's a lot of stuff you're going to need to get started. Like in the back of your truck, you got to make sure you got E-tracks. Some of them don't, for whatever reason, but you got to make sure you got E-tracks. You want one at the bottom, one in the middle, right? You got to make sure you got straps. You got to make sure you got blankets. You got to make sure you got it's a whole bunch of stuff that you need. Like it's like a starter kit almost. It's what you're going to need for basically every job that you do. Where to find loads, like what load boards to use. Where can I find work? Another thing is when you're on as an owner operator, you could lease on to a company, right? That's going to provide you access to their loads. They're going to charge you for that though. They might be charging you 20-25% of what the whole take is, right? You'll still be responsible for everything that makes your company go tick, like your insurance and fueling and all of the rest of the stuff, but they will keep your wheels turning, period, right? For some people that may work, it just depends. I pretty much don't use I don't sign on with people because it just doesn't make sense for me right now. But if it makes sense for you, by all means, that's what this whole thing is really is knowing your operating. That's part of knowing your operating costs, is knowing if it makes sense for you. How to negotiate, right? I go over that in the course as well. And remember when we looked at my spreadsheet, right? And I got this thing that the F is for formula. That means each number that you've seen, you know what? I just want to give y'all this right quick. I want to show y'all something. Is it possible that we can get back to that sheet with my spreadsheet on it? There you go. Right there. I remembered seeing this while I was talking, actually. If you look down here at number 9, there is at row 9, I want to say, is it a row column? I don't know. Row 9, it's on the 18th, 2022. It went from Freeland, Michigan to Mount Pleasant, Michigan. That's 45 miles, 60-mile deadhead. That's just an automated deadhead, though. The deadhead is more than that. Total miles is 105. The mileage is off on that. The hours is off on that but the pay is right. It's $710 for one load that was 45 miles away. On paper, it was 45 miles away, not including the deadhead, right? And you'll look at that load and say, oh, wow, that's a lot of money for one load, 45 minutes, right? But, and I'm telling y'all this just because of where we was just at and like how to negotiate a load, because it's only 45 miles. I said 45 minutes, but it's only 45 miles away. You might look at that like, oh, like there was other stuff. It was another one that was 45 miles and you got $450 for that one. Why the extra $300? It's because I understood where my truck was coming from. My truck was coming from Detroit and it had to ride all the way out to Freeland, Michigan. And just for, just so y'all can understand where this is, is located, it's kind of up by Saginaw, like close to the Saginaw area, something like that, right? If I'm not mistaken. And so that's about an hour and a half, 2-hour drive to go up there, right? And then you go 45 minutes across, and then you got to drive all the way back home. So yeah, I got $700 for that. I negotiated that. The broker did not. I remember that load. I remember this week actually because I worked most of this week. But the broker did not want to pay it. But here's the thing. I don't know if y'all know where Mount Pleasant is, but it's like right dead smack in the middle of Michigan. And Michigan is a fairly big state. There was no way possible that I was going to go up there and do that load for $200-300. That just wasn't going to happen. And it's because I'm, again, keenly aware of what my numbers look like. My formula don't lie to me, right? It don't lie to me at all, like 100%, because it kind of factors in everything. And with the course, I'm gonna teach you how to do that. I'm gonna teach you how to have a good range to negotiate with. I'm gonna teach you how when they don't tell you a price, you can go back to that last slide. Now, I just want to illustrate that the 710 there looks like it was good, but really, to tell you the truth, it was exactly what I should have been paid. Nothing really too much more, nothing too much less. I had to pull teeth to get it, but I had to do a 2 hour trip going to it, about an hour and 40 minutes. And then I had to do another 2 hour trip to bring my trip back. And I taxed them all of that extra travel. That's why that load was $710. So, you know, when I'm negotiating the load, my spreadsheet will give me kind of like a break-even point. It'll give me what I'm aiming for. Just so y'all know, like on average, I try not to take a hit on this, but I bill like $75 an hour when I'm driving. That's what I actually make, right? Myself, like that's what I bill myself for driving. So about $75 an hour. Like, and I don't get it every single time, but most of the time I get it. And when I don't get it, I'm still in a good area about it. A lot of times, if I don't get it, is because that trip might be serving a purpose. I haven't been going over the road lately, but when you're over the road, the game is a little bit different because I'm trying to get from one point to the next. So sometimes I have to go a little bit less than what I would normally go to get my truck in position to get home. It's hard as sometimes when you're out there over the road and you're doing all of your dispatch services yourself, it's hard to kind of get from point A to point B. You'll get all the way out to wherever. Let's use Kentucky, right? You get all the way out to Kentucky, and then you got to figuring like, oh, all right, it's time to head home. Now you got to find these loads and book yourself back home. And then so sometimes, I might take a load where I'm only making $50 an hour, but usually I try to make sure that those loads is like very short. Like I'm not doing a $50 hour load or $40 hour load, and it's gonna take me 8-9 hours to do it. Like it don't make sense to me. But this is just me being in tune with my numbers, in tune with my company, and in the course you're gonna learn how to hold your tongue, like, and not just jump out and say a number, especially if they don't say a number, because the number that they have in mind might blow your number out the water. But if you say a lower number, they're just gonna absolutely be like, oh yeah, 400, right? They probably is gonna tell you 650, right? So you're gonna learn how to hold them, when to fold them, that kind of thing. And you're gonna learn, with the course, you're gonna learn when to just bow out gracefully and look for the next load, because there's gonna be certain loads that your company just can't afford to do for whatever reason. Lastly, working for Amazon is relatively simple. You just got to meet their requirements. You got to meet their insurance requirements. They're going to want $100,000 worth of trailer insurance, cargo insurance. They're going to want $1 million policy, $2 million in the aggregate. They're going to want, it's a whole list of stuff that Amazon wants. The good news about dealing with Amazon, though, is that Amazon kind of sets you up to do business with everybody. Like, if you pass the requirements to get in Amazon, you can pretty much take any contract after that, because the requirements for Amazon is just about as high as you can get. I'm not going to say it's the highest, but it's about the highest you can get. It kind of makes you qualify. Like, if you got to run loads for anybody, you already meet the requirements if you already met it for Amazon. It's just a matter of getting that new company whatever paperwork you need to get to them. Amazon loads. Amazon is a great resource. I don't run a lot of Amazon loads, and it's mostly because they don't pay as much as me booking it independently. But, right, Amazon is a great resource to get started. When you first get started and you make this big old investment and you need to get your wheels turning, Amazon will get those wheels turning for you. That's number one. Another thing, too, is that when you're out, remember when I was telling you about booking loads to get back, Amazon is a great resource for that, too, as well, because they will help you. Like, booking their loads, you can almost always book back to Detroit. Almost always. basically no matter where you're from. It might not be in one shot. You might have to take that trip in a couple of legs, but you can, Amazon is critical for that kind of stuff. So I wouldn't not run for Amazon. I would always keep that option open. And I think, do we have any other slides? I think that might be, yeah, that's it. Like, I don't know if we have any questions out here. We get any questions, but I did offer, anybody that gives us any kind of legit feedback. We're going to give away one free ebook and one free course. The pre-order, we're going to have the course available for pre-order like basically immediately. We're doing everything half off. Ebook is going to be $49. The ebook and course is going to be, I think it was $174, was it? And then yeah, there it was. $124, that's what it was. And then the ebook, course, and the coaching is $174. And so man, I ain't gonna lie, I'm looking at this thing again, man. That's a great deal I'm not trying to toot my own thing. That's a great deal for the ebook and the course though, right now, because that's almost the ebook price, right? It's a lot of value. It's a lot of value that's gonna be in this stuff. So I surely appreciate you taking the time to do the webinar with me. I hope that I was able to touch as many topics as possible, man. I hope you gained something from it. I hope you learned something from it. Really appreciate you. I want to see if I can bring Miss Kimberly Johnson back on for any last words. Maybe. Oh, there she
Here
is.
I am. Well, thank you, Nick. Wow, that was a lot of really good information. I got really excited when you brought up the spreadsheet. I was like, oh, the real numbers don't lie. I mean, yeah, and that's just for a week. Minus expenses even, you still cleared a lot of money, and you didn't spend 40 hours doing it either.
So. No. We're right around probably 30 hours with that. I rarely ever work 40 hours myself, I'll be honest.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that looks really good to me. And the pricing for everything, I think we had talked about it earlier. When you think about your personality and how you learn, is kind of how you can decide which one of these packages is best for you.
Yeah.
So if you are super self-directed, you might do just fine with that ebook. Just grab it, go down the list, look at what you need to know and execute. But if you need a little bit more information before you feel like you're ready to make a move, go for the e-course with the ebook as a handout, as a reference material. And then if you really need a lot of help and you really want to have somebody hold your hand through the process, I mean, we have a great 8-week course where you get to meet with Nick for an hour every week, ask him as many questions as you want. To make sure that you're on track. And I really feel like that's also a way of being accountable to make sure that you're moving,
Yeah.
You're real complacent,
Yeah.
So I just think all three are great, but my personality, I need the hand holding. So I'd be going for the mega package would be my package to do. But everything, is there and it's up to you. Whichever one suits you, go for it. We would love to have your feedback, like Nick was saying, because that's really how we're going to make sure that we fine tune this course. We're practically letting you guys customize it by giving us feedback. I mean, it's pretty well done. All we need is just a little bit of knowing, like, what else can we add to make it, 150%. You know what I mean? So if you guys want to click on the link that's here, or at one point, we're going to have this available out on our YouTube channel, and you can click on a link below in the description and give feedback on this webinar there too. There'll also be a link on where you can order the book or the course with the coaching. So take advantage of that. These prices will not stay here forever. This is only good for the month of December. because we really want to be able to throw that course out to anyone who pre-buys by early January. That's like our goal. So these prices are going to end. They won't be this way forever. So if you're interested, we advise you to go ahead and take advantage of it. Otherwise, those prices double very soon. So the time is now.
Yeah,
But that's it. So I just wanted to thank Nick again. That was just a lot of information, and there's even more information in the course.
I'll
So
tell you, 2023 has potential to be your year. I promise you. Like you catch that course, or you catch it with the with the coaching. Get everything in order, be up and running in a couple of months. Remember, time is money. So don't delay. The more you delay, the more you're gonna miss. Like just 100%. So
definitely.
2023 is your year. Let's get it.
Yeah, let's get it. All right. Well, thanks everybody for being here. Those who could come, we really appreciate it. And again, the links are there. We would love to have your feedback. And we look forward to working with you in the future. Check us out on Prodigals Build on our YouTube channel. That's where you're going to find this webinar recorded at some date very close to now, maybe within a week or so, if you want to go back and watch it again. But thank you, Nick. It was great.
Thank you.
All right, everybody have a great evening.
You as well. See y'all.
All right. Bye-bye.